What's going on, everybody? My name is Gianni, and today we're diving into The Midnight Walk. In my 20s, for one reason or another, I had a soft spot for short indie exploration games that pushed the limits of what the medium could do from a storytelling perspective. Now, I know they weren't the only titles to do so, but the 2010s was a golden era for these sorts of games, and experiences like Gone Home, Journey, What Remains of Edith Finch, and my personal favorite, The Unfinished Swan, were transformative in the way they delivered so much emotional impact in such a short time. Flash forward to 2025, and developer Moonhood has managed to pull off something truly impressive, evoking the same feelings of beauty, awe, wonder, and discovery that was perfected by their predecessors all those years ago. Set in a creepy post-apocalyptic world inhabited by stop-motion creatures who would have fit right into a Tim Burton project, The Midnight Walk puts you in the shoes of the Burnt One. You start your journey with no indication of who you are or why you're there, and soon find yourself befriending a companion in Potboy, a small little guy who just wants a friend to eat coal with. Like, seriously, my man could eat. In its first hour or so, you'll learn that you and Potboy are destined to travel to the peak of Moon Mountain. And while you won't know why or how, it's up to you and your fiery little friend to find a way despite all the odds stacked against you. As you progress from chapter to chapter, you'll come across a handful of new friends, as well as some folks with unclear motivations who give deeper insight into why their world came to be this way, as well as your role in their story. Whether it's a two-headed soothsayer spouting prophecies at every turn, a town of beheaded citizens at odds with their limbed counterparts, or an aggressive anthropomorphic bird who seeks joy in the tragedy of the world, every single creature you encounter along the way seeks to bring clarity around why you're on this mysterious trek. While the messaging starts off pretty vague, as you unravel the truth behind the Midnight Walk, you'll come to find that maybe not everything here is as dark as it seems. The story beats take several unexpected emotional turns that feel equal parts gut-wrenching as they do hopeful. Without spoiling anything, I wouldn't necessarily say that Moonhood is reinventing the wheel with any sort of crazy twist-laden plot points, but it definitely felt unique in its approach to taking well-known tropes and flipping them in really interesting ways to present a different perspective on familiar themes. And while every NPC serves to usher the plot along in one way or another, I couldn't help but feel that the game is riddled with this fourth wall meta commentary that felt like every message and every lesson wasn't for the main character, but for me, the player. To be honest, when I rolled credits, I had to just sit for a minute, reflect on my own life, and understand what the game was trying to teach me. Now, despite the fact that storytelling in the game leaves a lot of exposition to conversations with strangers and environmental clues, a good amount of its rich history and teachable moments are left to collectibles scattered throughout the world. During your adventure, you'll come across different audio logs, film segments, figurines, and music records, all of which add little bits and pieces to the story's overall narrative. The beauty here is there's enough collectibles in the game to keep your eyes peeled, but never to the point where you feel like exploration has outstayed its welcome. You can actually track your collectible progress chapter by chapter, albeit in a really odd design choice that requires you to quit the game entirely to view your interactive inventory space, but I'd say I came across about 75% of the in-game collectibles naturally through the course of my own playthrough. While nothing is entirely mandatory for understanding the story at large, everything definitely feels additive enough to be worthwhile. And while off-path optional content is minimal at best, The Midnight Walk never sets itself up to be a game that would require it. It's mostly just an A to B walking simulator, and that's honestly all it needs to be, because what makes the most impact here is the world building and the narrative message. And since the campaign runs its course in a concise 6-hour time frame, you never even feel like there's a lack of exploration. So, with that setup in mind, let's talk moment-to-moment gameplay. The Midnight Walk will take you through 6 different puzzle-filled chapters that play out pretty similarly. Each biome is typically inhabited by a different brand of monster who wants nothing more than to hunt you down, all while you figure out puzzle after puzzle in service of the local residents. One of my key takeaways with my time here is that even though the loop is fairly straightforward during the game's playthrough, the mechanics are constantly changing while remaining easy to grasp. None of the puzzles are particularly difficult, but they're always different, so you're constantly learning new things and trying new solutions. It's a really nice way of keeping you on your P's and Q's while never forcing you to stress too hard over next steps. At no point did I spend more than 5 or 6 minutes on any given puzzle, but at the same time I always felt challenged. The added anxiety of outsmarting creatures like an overly sensitive swamp blob, fire-eating creepy crawlies who stalk you silently, and pure nightmare-inducing two-faced bugs make gameplay that much more thrilling. While the world of the Midnight Walk uses every opportunity to tell you that there's beauty in its darkness, it also won't hesitate to remind you that there's still plenty of reasons to be afraid. I'll be the first to admit here that there was a handful of times when I just straight up screamed out loud at the sudden appearance of a screeching grinner or a silent creeper sneaking up from my side. I will say that some of my more obvious gripes with this game came from these stealth sneaking sections though. First, monsters in this world seem to have really inconsistent fields of vision. There were quite a few times where I'd be caught from a mile away, resulting in a death, while other times I'd get right up in these guys' grills and they'd just kind of yell at me while I turned and ran. It resulted in a couple of frustrating restarts that left me somewhat shaky on some of the enemy encounters. Second, the game spends its first two acts, which are incidentally its longest, smacking you with these stealth sections, but then almost entirely drops them towards the end. Now again, without spoiling anything, there's a whole lot of reasons to love the Midnight Walk's final act, but it makes the game's pacing as a whole just feel slightly unbalanced and a bit rushed. Okay, so before wrapping things up, I have to touch on two 10 out of 10 aspects of this game, and that's its creative direction and its score. Before you even reach the game's title screen, Moonhood includes a brief introduction page that states, "This game is a handmade tale shaped from clay, cardboard, and dreams." Now what I didn't know is that this game was actually handmade with clay, and cardboard, and dreams. Everything you see within the world of the Midnight Walk started its life as an actual practical prop before being scanned into the game's engine and animated. According to the dev team, there were over 700 models created to fill out the game's world and everything in it. It's an incredibly unique development technique with a flawless proof of concept that had me in awe of the work involved to pull it off. Backgrounding these beautifully grotesque set pieces and characters is an inspiring original score that nearly brought me to tears on a few occasions and immediately instilled fear in others. The Midnight Walk's overall audio design is top-notch, and I'm still playing its soundtrack on repeat days after the game's climactic ending. The composers behind the game's many musical themes did an incredible job blending aspects of classical compositions and modern jazz that set the tone for any quest you would be embarking on and evoke deep emotional responses after every story revelation. Overall, the Midnight Walk accomplished a huge task in introducing an entirely mysterious world and putting an absolutely incredible bow on it that left me smiling from ear to ear beneath watery eyes when the credits rolled. Every mystery introduced was resolved in a satisfying way, and all in all, I left my time playing the game with a beautiful sense of finality. In a day and age where our community has force-fed the conversation of replayability into the discourse around every single title, I remember those games from a decade ago and how they made me feel. Like any moving film or book or painting, not everything is designed to experience over and over and over. They're meant to be experienced once and resonate with you anytime they come up in passing conversation or remembered fondly when life brings you to a point that reminds you of them. The Midnight Walk perfectly encapsulates that kind of title. So it's no indictment on the game's quality when I say it's meant to be experienced once, because it'll resonate forever.